All right, so this is 2.0. Fuck it, I'm on one, right? Lil Wayne style. So, Mark, back to Mark, okay? Is Mark a white supremacist? And is the fact that Mark talks over top of this particular black woman in a staff meeting racism? Is that a microaggression? Or is it that Mark is an asshole and talks over top of everyone? And the only person Mark will let talk happens to be a high school buddy of his who he played football with, who's part black, right? Mark will let that guy speak. Why? Because that guy has 20 years of shared history with Mark and an established relationship with Mark. And Mark is very insecure and has a lot of trauma that he hasn't unpacked and dealt with, and had a bad relationship with his mom and everything else, right? Like, is there more shit there to unpack? Yes. And is portraying it as purely it's a racist microaggression, or it's a race and gender microaggression. Is that really the answer here, Because if you brought in somebody else, you brought in take a black woman who had been Mark's second grade teacher, right? Who he loved dearly, Mark would let that person talk, right? But because he talked over top of this one particular black woman, in addition to 90% of the other people in the meeting, and only really listened to and slowed his roll to hear from one other person who was a mixed race male, right? Are we going to all of a sudden go through all these machinations and just attribute that to, okay, Mark spoke over top of this particular black woman because he is a racist, and therefore that is a racial microaggression, right? Are we going to necessarily interpret it that way? Okay? This is what a lot of folks are reacting to and pushing back against. They are pushing back against the narrative that anything going in this direction is necessarily explained by a product of, and primarily so, racism, right? That's what a lot of folks simply don't buy. And I don't buy it either, because it's way the fuck more complicated than that. Way the fuck more complicated than that. And further, when you get into microaggressions, all these woke people are claiming that there have been these studies documenting and validating that microaggressions are a real thing. But if you actually delve into the literature, there is no fucking universal or standard definition of what a microaggression is. Microaggressions, the concept of a microaggression is in no way scientific. There is no actual basis there in science, in well-designed research or analysis from which to derive the concept of a microaggression. A microaggression is something that sociologists have just kind of pulled out of their ass, okay? And DEI folks have pulled out of their ass so they can attribute everything to racism. And the answer to everything is not fucking racism, okay? Is racism real? Abso-fucking-lutely. Racism is real. And does America have a sordid 400-year history of racism? Abso-fucking-lutely. That's real, and that's true. But portraying everything, every single instance of jerkish behavior or dickish behavior or disrespect, portraying everything as some sort of racial microaggression or an intersectional microaggression built on race and gender, etc. No, it's fucking not, okay? It's way more complicated than that. And further, there are much bigger and more significant issues about race and racism for us to address as a society. And so by portraying everything as racism and portraying everything as a microaggression and screaming racism on everything, do you really fucking think that is the way to attain progress? Do you really think that is the way for America as a country and as a society to make progress on issues of racism? Because all you're doing with this whole microaggression shit, right? Like people think, and this is just, I'm just gonna get real offensive because I don't give a fuck, okay? You got these DEI people, all right, who they think that their DEI shit is doing the work. I'm doing the work. You're not fucking doing the work. You are not doing the work, right? The massa, your corporate massa, gave you X millions of dollars for you to do your little horseshit DEI programming so the company can parade it out there, right? Publicize it, market it, tell folks, oh, we take diversity and include, we're so serious about this. Look at we're so committed. We hired this new person. It's tokenism and it's marketing. It's basically a prophylactic. It's basically companies using this DEI shit to give them cover for otherwise continuing to engage in illegal discrimination. I don't give a shit if a company has a director of diversity and inclusion. I don't give a shit if a company hires 4 or 5 woke people to work in a department and create pretty looking graphics about their commitment to diversity and do seminars and do talking sessions and listening tours and everything else. You know what I give a shit about, right? Show me the money, okay? Who's getting paid? What are the salaries, right? Compare, white employees, black employees. Who do they hire? Do they not hire black folks, right? Is there actual discrimination? All these other things that a sort of outward, superficial expression of or commitment to diversity and inclusion, that sort of superficial lip service bullshit does fuck all nothing to address the underlying issues, right? It's lipstick on a pig. And at the end of the day, you are still working for the man. You still work for the system. I don't need any breadcrumbs from the master's table. I don't need the master to give me some pork fat, right? For a nice Christmas jubilee. I'm a free fucking man, okay? My 2 cents, for what it's worth.